and create solutions using design. Our design is also solves business problems. I think one of the problems that designers do have is communicating their value as designers to in wherever they work or with clients. Our role as designers. Okay, so I hope someone is showing something. I hope person can see properly on YouTube. Okay, so I'm going to continue. So our role as designers, especially in the area of business, we see that um, if a platform is properly designed, are able to use that platform. I just go back to the example I made earlier of the reels. I mean Instagram reels, YouTube reels. I don't know if it's called reels on YouTube. You get the idea that feature we have on that platform. It's called that if because of those features on YouTube are able to even make more money because they can now create short videos and more people would be more people would discover those content creators and perform whatever function that whatever thing the content creator wants to sell. The content creator can even sell to more people because they are now reaching more people. And also when you talk about the companies who build these features, who are design centered, who put design first, because of that, they are able to create solutions that are user centered. If you are if this set, for example, if you have a set of people that are going to patronize your business, it's best for you to ensure that those people have the best experience. Either it is customer experience with physical stores or it is digital, wherever space it is. Your customers are the ones that will pay you money. So if you give them a good experience, they will definitely come back. And for the in digital space where we are focused on, we see that designers' role is to create those experiences. And when you have a good experience, people will patronize or will visit that platform. And whatever premium or feature that involves payments that the platform has would be easy for users to want to opt in and pay for those features because it's a good experience and they're able to perform their function. The problem they came to solve on that platform is easy to solve and they're able to solve it. That was what we talked about on the introduction to design. This is Paul, and Paul is the father of modern design, graphic design, and but this was very interesting quote that he made about design. Then we also talked about user interface design. We explored a whole lot. I think that was one of the most content field class we've had. I mean, it was a rush, but we talked about a lot of things from what user interface design means and why it is important. We also showed examples of user interface design, and when you think about user interface design, you think of what you see when you visit a website. When you search, when you put a URL, when you click a link, what you see when that link opens is an interface. When the windows you are looking at, if you are using your PC, that phone you are looking at, the buttons, the color, the icons that you see on your screen right now is user interface design. It was created and was used. It was created using visuals. It is different. I want to take note that user UI is user interface design is graphic design. The design principles that apply to graphic design would bear some semblance in user interface design, but don't design the same way you design flyers. You don't design user interface that in that way. You don't create UI. You don't create user interface for websites and mobile apps or other digital experiences the same way you create flyers. You don't do that. In fact, it's I need to emphasize how wrong it is for you to ensure that your mindset, especially if you are someone who has experience with graphic design, when you're coming into the UI, you have to change your mindset and your mental model around designing for the internet because it's different. It's not the same. I'm so sorry about that. So sorry about that. Sorry. I will stop screaming and share my screen again. Sorry about that. Oh dear. My stream is off. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. Okay. Let me share my screen again. Sorry about that. All right. My screen is shared. Sorry about that break. I mistakenly pressed something else. That what wasn't. I'm not going to really show all the screens we talked about in that day because that's not proper. Just that's not the we are in today. I just wanted to give an overview of what we discussed in our previous classes. Then we explored. So yeah, I was saying about graphic design is different from user interface design. So when you are moving for someone who has experience with graphic design, you have to understand that it is different. You don't come with the effects you use in Photoshop. You don't pour them into a UI. You don't design a brochure in the name of creating user interface. It's wrong and it doesn't work. Besides the fact that the engineer is going to be um for the engineers to implement. In graphic design, you just create flyer, you put it out there, use it for ads, whatever it is. There's no engineering process in the whole development process, the whole development life cycle. When you're creating user interface design, in the digital space, you are creating designs that will be implemented by developers. That's an area we would look at in the coming class. Another thing you also want to take note of is it is you are to ensure that this principle of design called it was by Jacob. I'm not sure if I can't remember the second, but basically he's trying to say that before users visit your site, they visited other similar sites. The first platform that the user is visiting, and users expect that your website or your mobile app or your whatever interface. And when I say your what other interface, other digital experiences that are not website and mobile apps. Example would be the dashboard on a car. It's an interface, but it doesn't fall under the category of a website, or that doesn't fall under the under mobile apps. So interfaces on digital interface on tools like maybe your fridge in your house. If you have all these advanced fridges, the interface you have there, it's categorized under user interface design. It's another form of design. It's not as popular as we have website. As designers, you should explore that space. Then we talked about shapes. We talked about typography, colors, and how the role they play in creating, communicating your design. As much as possible, when you're working on UIs, you want to keep it simple. The simplest design are actually the best. If you visited Apple's website, for example, you'll see how simple you can literally point to all the different design elements. But the way they look and feel help to create that overall okay, this platform is actually good. When you visit some websites, you don't need any validation. You just associate that these people are serious. These people are legit. If you visit a website and it looks like crap, you see the icon, the logo is extra large, the buttons are anyhow, the images are not properly placed, they have low quality, and the text is some are large, some are small, things are just kept anyhow. You would likely associate that website with maybe it's fake, maybe it's not used by you will not it will be difficult for you to trust the website to do whatever when it comes to maybe releasing your bank details or stuff like that. So the quality of your design influences the users' perception of how trustworthy you are. If you have a poorly designed interface, the platform will be associated with would would lose its credibility to a large extent. That is how important design is. And when you create good interface, of course, you interact more users. And if it is good, based on the aesthetics, if it is good, you'll be able to convert. You'll be able to make sales. You'll be able to funnel users to whatever end that you're trying to achieve. Then last thing we talked about before today's class was another thing we talked about for today's class was design thinking and why they are important in solving problems. We have to understand that you don't have to follow the design thinking process when solving a problem, but it's one of the tested and trusted process to creating to solving problems with design. Solving problems actually, not just in design, because we've seen applications of design thinking even in business, and it works. It simply works because at the core of design thinking is users. It starts with, give me a sec. Okay, it's a very core of design thinking is users, where the process seeks to discover the problems users have and create solutions, test it, and based on the feedback you get from users, go back again and make iterations. After a few iterations, there's no how you will not come out with an optimal solutions, a solution that designer that the users will be happy with. Then today what we would go into wireframe. We touched wireframe during the user interface class, but we didn't really speak much about it in detail. But that what we'll be doing today. We'll just talk about user interface wireframe in much more detail. So what is wireframe? When you think about before we go into the definition of wireframe, we're going to consider this wireframe under the subheadings. We're looking at what a wireframe is, looking at the examples of wireframe, then things to consider before you start a wireframe, then wireframing tools, as well as steps to creating a wireframe. Then okay. Okay. Just checking in for any message. Okay, so yeah, then we'll go right into this. So first we have the definition of wireframe. So when you think about wireframe basically means the sketching of an idea. Basically, this is the bare bone of a solution, and as it applies to user interface design, to UIUX, wireframe basically involves creating the sketch, the minimum you can see it as the minimum viable solution they are trying to create. So you want to design a login sign-in form, for example, where you want to collect users' name, users' email address, you want to collect their date of birth, you want to collect their nationality, stuff like that. But before you go over to start, that's an example, to the Figma file to start working on it, you can go through the wireframing process where you get to draw out how you want the form to look like, how you want the login sign up form to look like, where you want the heading to be, where you want the paragraphs to be, the input field, the selector for the date of birth, with name, how the placeholder, how do you want the interface to look like. If it's a mobile app you're designing for, then you won't have much problem with designing web. You will not be thinking about designing for desktop, designing for mobile. But if you're designing for a website, for example, if the login sign up form is for a website, then you'll be thinking about creating the desktop, not at the wireframing stage, but it's something that you would consider. Yeah, you'll be creating the desktop view, the mobile view, and stuff like that. So wireframing allows us to find ideas. The idea you have to create that solution. For example, I made the example the other day of perhaps we want to solve the problem of traffic in Lagos using a mobile app, for example. Before you jump in to start into your Figma file or whatever you're using to start working on the design, you need to have an idea of how the platform will look like how will users move from one step to another to solve that problem. Like what will happen when they open the app? Then after they open the app, what next? Then after that, what next? What next? What do they do? What action will they perform? What feedback will they get for the action performed? You have to figure out all these things. And it is fast when you use wireframes, especially paper pen. You just use a biro and paper and you start drawing these things out because it's faster. It's actually freaking fast. And when you're working with teams, for example, it makes simplifies the whole process because you can easily sketch out what you have in mind and send it to others to review and collect feedback before you go into the using online tools to implement the wireframe. So it's a good way to flesh out and to visualize solutions. So it could not necessarily like the example I gave earlier, which is login sign up form. It could be the whole platform. Example, maybe for you to solve the traffic in Lagos State, you'll be directing traffic from instead if everybody's following, if people are initially going to follow one particular path, if when the particular road is congested, you all the people on that road will be receive a notification to opt for another road that is less congested. Just a theoretical example. Then you would then create the interface. Okay, so when people click on this app, then they would receive a notification. So and so happen. This will happen. That will happen. Then this will be the end. By this point, their problem is solved. Then this what will happen if they encounter any problem. This is what will happen if if whatever you could then consider the different scenarios where users would need some sort of interaction. Then you wireframe it. Saves you time and it saves you resources. That's the beauty of wireframe. Then if you're now if you're on a design sprint is a short period of time where designers work on to work on try to solve a problem. It normally lasts for 5 days. So by the end of 5 days, the design team, it's mostly in team. It's mostly done in team. It's not something you can do individually as a person because you'll be needing stakeholders. I'm diverting, but just follow me. I'm talking about design sprints now. So you'll be working with other stakeholders like maybe the product owner, the CEO to collect the information from them on the solution or the product that the team is trying to build. When you get stage of testing or prototyping, you don't necessarily you are not expected. In fact, you will not even have time because it's something you have to do within a few hours to start going to Figma to design an entire solution. Then you now start thinking about how you test it. Most times you use things like wireframe. You just use your design tool to just draw the bare minimum of that solution. So you just okay, this is where text should be. Maybe you just write the text. No need for images. You can use rectangles to signify images. Then just use different blocks to represent different things. Then you can test it with users and you get feedback. So that's another use case of wireframes. Then it also helps to show how you think. It also helps to show the process you went through to solve a problem. For example, you are working on a personal project to solve it. You're trying to build your portfolio. Instead of it to be it's going to be an interesting story when you're telling your story in your case study to show how you had the idea, then how you transfer the idea into sketches. You sketched out the idea through using wireframe. Of course, wireframe is basically sketching out the idea. Then how you went from sketching out the idea on pen and paper to transferring it into a design to maybe Figma or Sketch or InVision, any of those design tools. Then you went there, you start converting those UI into those wireframes into user interface design. It shows the process, it shows the journey that you followed, and it's much more engaging when you show that path you took towards solving a problem. And the organizations that have it in their process to wireframe solutions, before going into the actual building, just to ensure that you are not breaking things. In your your design is not going to break
Yeah, I can see your messages, everyone. Good evening. Yes, so he's having network issue, but he's going to join us soon. So please, everybody, just stay on the call. Yeah, and please, there's a bot installed on our server. I don't know if you guys know it. So if you need words of encouragement, you can just type in the comment bot, and it's going to give you words of motivation. So your spare time, you can just type it. I don't know if you guys understand. And also, please just stay on the call. Please, please, please. Our instructor will be joining us. He's trying to connect again, switch his network and join us. Thank you very much. Yeah, and also from next month, we are going to be giving you guys assignments. And moving forward, every Sunday, we are going to be having weekly events. So there's going to be a general call starting from Sunday, but we'll let you guys know if we're starting this Sunday or the following week Sunday. So there are going to be activities that you guys are going to engage you all with. So please, if you are just joining for this first time, please go back to our videos on YouTube and just practice and watch them. Also check us, follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. So you can check for Top Universe and follow us. You can like and comment. And if you have anything, you can reach out to us also. So please stay on the line, stay on call. Your instructor will join you guys. So thank you guys for your patience. And if you are feeling down, you can just type in the comment command on the chat and you get motivation. So please, thank you guys.
I'm so sorry. My network just disconnected me. But I'm back now. I'm going to share my screen right now. Okay. Then yes. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Okay. Okay. I guess you can see my screen now. Okay. All right. I'm going to continue. Going to continue. I'm waiting for Joanne. I want to see if she's also saying she can hear. Okay. Oh, all right. I'll start now. So sorry about that. I was saying what wireframes could come in different forms. It could be as in form of pen and paper. You just pick up paper and sketch it out. Emphasis: you don't your wireframe doesn't have to be smooth, straight lines. If you have your ruler, you have some tools to make it nice, fine. But that's not the goal. In fact, nobody cares. Use your natural hand movement to draw those squares, draw those circles, draw those shapes, those buttons. Like nobody cares if it is perfect. Now, what you do is that when you have all those things sketched out, like the image we had here, and like this one, when you have something like this sketch, you can use labels. You label what you mean here in those different partitions. Let's assume that it's not exactly nice. Like it's a bit rough, which is fine. I mean, it's natural. It's fine for it not to be rough. So you use labels to point to those different points, different parts of the wireframe. Okay, now say, okay, this part is meant for this. This is what it will look like. This part is meant for this. This is what it will look like. You just the way same way you'd create a label. That's exactly what you do. I'm breaking up. Whoa. Please can is Amaka on this call? Am I breaking up? Oh my goodness. Then give me a moment.
Sorry,
Let me.
I can hear him clearly. I don't know. So I think maybe they should end it and connect again. But I can hear
You
him
can hear
clearly
me
from my
clearly.
end.
True. Like since I returned, you could hear me clearly.
Yeah. I'm I can hear him again.
All right. All right. Since that means probably it's network, so I'll just continue. Okay. So yes. So if you're when you create a wireframe, like I said, earlier, it doesn't have to be nice. It doesn't have to be fine. Use labels to point to those different points, parts in your wireframe, and explain to whoever will be seeing it. That it will make more sense. Then, if you are using a tool like an online tool, Figma, there are others. We'll be going over them in a moment. Then you have the opportunity to make your design much more neat, like the image on the first image, the one on the left. You can say this was definitely done with it, so it's not by hand, and it has more details compared to the one you would work on with paper. One on with paper most likely would definitely come in form of shapes like rectangles to indicate image or video sections. Then you would have buttons, rectangular buttons, then just blocks to represent text. Just simple things, circles, depending on what you're using there, maybe for the avatar image, the avatar of user avatar. Basically, just shapes will be more to mostly form the wireframe. In fact, that's what forms the wireframe. Like the image here, I'm going to still refer back to it. You can see we just have a rectangle, rectangle, rectangle for the form field because this is more like a create account screen. You just You want to mimic what would be of the actual interface, but using shapes, simple shapes, rectangles, circles, square. Then normally, if you're creating this rectangle, is a rectangle for an image. When you draw the rectangle, you just add a sort of crossing. You say that okay, this is for an image. The image is supposed to be here. Then if it's a video, you can have a circle in the middle of the rectangle and have this play button. At least when you do that, anybody seeing it will know that okay, this is supposed to be a video. It's be very intuitive for whoever is viewing it, and it will also help you because after a while you might not even remember what you drew in your wireframe. But if you make it easy to understand with those labels and as well as using a model that looks like what would the design will look like when it is completed, it will be easy for you to go through your wireframe months later or years later. When you look at a wireframe that you've done before, it will make sense and you'll be able to understand it. But if it's you're using design tools, you have the flexibility of making it much more detailed. For example, on the right hand side, sorry, you have the image just represented by a rectangle, a big box. Then on the left hand side, sorry, we have the block of text doing the buttons, and we have this card. A card was normally made up of an image, in this case, an image, a heading, then a paragraph. It could also come with a button. Cards are basically group of information that behave differently depending on the screen size. It could see it in different forms of for this particular class. Because cards are like blocks in your design. Okay, so yeah, that is it for the examples. So this is another example. I just mentioned the fact that when you're working with cards will look different depending on the screen size. You can see this block when it is small, it stacks on each other. When the screen size is on mobile, you can see it stacks on each other. Then when it is on desktop, it comes like it goes in rows, one row after the next. And you also have to consider that when you're creating your designs, that you don't have to design emphasis, please. You don't need to create wireframe for desktop, wireframe for mobile view, wireframe for different screen size. No, it's not important. Wireframe is to show the information hierarchy, the hierarchy of information on the solution you're trying to create. What goes where? Where does this information go to? What is the function of this? Basically, just show the different information and data points in the design. You are not meant to design for different screen sizes. This is just an example. Okay, so you will be looking at the things to consider before starting a wireframe. The wireframe could serve different functions and could be used in different scenarios, like I mentioned earlier. Okay, or you would have to consider the different scenarios. Okay, so based on you have to consider the things why you need the wireframe. So we're going to look at the different reasons or things you should think about before you start working on a wireframe. This is just a short list. Basically, you have to ask yourself why. Just seriously, you would consider the why when working on anything, not just design, any area of your life. Why would really help you to know how your wireframe or the purpose of your wireframe in the project flow, like in the whole process of what you are building. Why are you working in wireframe? Because it's possible for you not to use a wireframe. You not including the wireframe or not following the wireframe process when creating a design does not make it wrong. It doesn't make your design bad, but it might make it to probably be using both paper and online tools. What is the design process like if you're working with an organization? Is there at what point do you include the wireframe? Because there are points when you move from wireframe to code. There are points when you move from wireframe to the design, the high fidelity, the prototype. Then there's a process to that. So there are different processes. You have to determine or identify the design process. If it's you're working with other team, it's very like working in an organization. If it's a personal thing, you define your design process. Then what's how you want the depth you want to go into the wireframe. Okay, so for why you want to create a wireframe, so what do you want to do? Most of the time, wireframe will be very valuable to you when you want to really get into the nitty gritty of your solution. You want to feel it. You want to use your hands to see the experience. Because when you use your bio, there's something that there's a way things click mentally when you're using your bio and paper compared to system. Maybe this is a personal thing. When you use your bio and paper to start sketching things out, the same way when you're in class, you're advised to take notes. The same way when you're using your bio and paper to draw things, it allows you to visualize what you're trying to do in a different way. It allows you to see much more details or depth in what you're doing. Then also the why could be like, okay, you're designing the wireframe because you want to be able to tell the story of how you got to the high fidelity design, like the final design. You want to show how your process or the journey you went through, the iterations you made along the way, from the wireframe on paper to the wireframe on your laptop or your online tools, sorry, then all the way down to the high fidelity. You want to show your process, your journey, the iterations, how you made in decisions along the way. It can be very, very valuable. And that's how you show value to as a designer. You tell your story. Design, right, angle of design is storytelling. Designers are storytellers. Then another thing you would also want to consider: what is the time frame for this project? If you have a project to deliver in 3 weeks, you can start working on wireframe and you tell me how many days it take you to complete. Like you tell me how important the value of you discover that if you have short period of time, a shorter period of time, right? Like a project to deliver in a short period of time, wireframe will become unnecessary because the time you're using to work on a wireframe, you can as well switch to working with the actual design itself. But for you to do this, it might require some level of proficiency, but it would also you would be losing out of the advantages of wireframe. So you have to consider, okay, do I have enough time? When is the deadline for this project? When is the deadline for this design that I'm working on? If you have a design to deliver that the next few days or 2 weeks, and you see the bulk of your possibilities, you just go to paper to figure out network again is messing me up. I do not know what's happening, but since the evening is kind of really worse, I would make sure that I make preparations for next time. Yes, my network is bad. I know. I'm so sorry about this. I'm going to share my screen now, then we'll continue. We're almost done. I'll just try and speed things up so we can conclude for today. Sorry for the network problem. My screen is shared. Screen is shared. Okay. Um. Okay. So we're talking about the project timeline. You also want to consider the wireframe. This to consider before you start a wireframe. Then Oh my goodness. Okay. So we'll be looking at the different design. We're looking at design tools. We've talked about what to consider before we work on design tools, before we work on the design.